Welcome back, everyone. I'm Daniel, and today I'm here with the story of the Kingdom of God. So today, we're on lesson 4. Let's read the title together. Eden's story of God's kingdom. Okay, for today's lessons, we're going to stop at 3 destinations. The destinations are the origin, the fall, and after the fall. Just remember these 3 titles as we're going into this lesson. So, today we're going to talk about the origin of the kingdom of God and also the fall of mankind and after the fall. Are you ready? Let's get right into it. Okay. So everybody, we have reached our first stop. The title for our first stop is The Origin. For this part, we're going to take a time machine to around 6,000 years before the creation of this world. I want everyone to imagine we arrive at an earth much more beautiful and peaceful. Just imagine. There are beautiful flowers and trees everywhere. The weather is absolutely perfect. It's a nice, cool breeze just blowing around and amazing clouds painted like streaks on the canvas of the sky. This is what we call the creation, the Garden of Eden. There is an atmosphere that covers all creation, a certain peace and almost happiness. That is the presence of God. Welcome to creation. Or I should say, the kingdom of God. The origin of the kingdom of God is the Garden of Eden. Here, God has the rule and the authority over all creation as creator. He created human, the form of God himself. We as his creation must obey him, as he is the creator and we are his creation. We also must represent him and take after his character. Between the creator and the creation is a covenant. Remember in the last lesson we talked about the word covenant? The word covenant means a contract or a promise of some sort. We all have made a kind of promise between friends or between businesses before, right? Just like that, God put covenant between us and him as creator and creation. This covenant is marked through the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God basically puts the tree in the middle of the garden, saying, okay, I put this tree here and you cannot eat of this fruit. The tree will show you and will make you remember that I am king. This is the covenant between me and you, okay? And so every time Adam sees that tree, he remembers that he is the creation and God is the creator and that he has to obey him and also has to represent him as his creation. This is the origin of the kingdom of God. So we've looked at the origin of the kingdom of God. Let's go on to our next stop, that is fall. This is where the story goes south. Satan, in the form of clever snake, slithers across the garden onto the tree in the center, right where Eve is browsing. He plucks one of the fruit and dangles it around Eve's eyes. Eve clearly knows about the rule God told them, but Eve falls into the temptation. Let's think about what fall is for a minute. Satan did use the snake as a tool to tempt human into sinning, but the reason why sin came into the world is human. Mankind broke the covenant made with God, shattering into smithereens what was the relationship between man and God. The world wasn't a painful and toilful world from the beginning, as we saw earlier. The earth used to be such a beautiful and peaceful place, yet that was just broken into pieces in a second. The cause for the world to fall into evil is by the rebellion of man. We must remember that the root of our sin is rebellion against God. However, there is something we must be thankful for. After the fall of man, God doesn't fully destroy creation, but keeps it from total destruction. Sin leads to death, and death leads to destruction, and is the start of death. But the reason why sin doesn't lead straight to death is because of God's grace. God protects the world from total destruction. That is to fulfill the plan for restoration of the kingdom of God. There are 2 things that God will do to restore the kingdom of God. Number 1 is defeating Satan and judging him. Number 2 is saving mankind. And we can see this being promised in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. I'll read it for you. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers, and he will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. So we have reached our last stop for today. I'll read it for you. After the fall, Adam and Eve have children outside of the Garden of Eden. The story continues outside of the Garden of Eden. Human population increases by tens, hundreds, and thousands. The curse of death is over the world. However, it does not have the power to control the world, since God's grace is still among them. This is because there will be continual struggle between the descendants of the serpent and the descendants of the woman, until the seed of the woman, just like it's promised in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. Until the seed of the woman promised in Genesis chapter 3, verse 16 comes, the line of descendants of the serpent and the line of descendants of the woman, under the rule of Satan, will be in conflict on this earth. In the midst of this, God keeps on calling upon his people to come towards him, to be his people, and so that they can make a new covenant and a new relationship between them. Mankind is, after all, God's creation. And being the original father, having the heart of a father with a lost child, he seeks to restore the relationship and the covenant between us and him. Okay, did you all enjoy your journey? I learned a lot while listening to this lesson. And I hope all of you have at least one thing you have learned today. If you have, share it with your parents or your friends. Let's revise the things we learned today. One of the things we learned was that the origin of the kingdom of God is the Garden of Eden. In the beginning, the world is perfect, but it fell by the rebellion of man. However, God has a plan and a promise. I hope you all enjoyed today's lesson. This was Daniel with the story of God's kingdom. Thank you. All seven.